Division round the Kansas City. Mahomes down. Scooped by McCaffrey. Now first and goal from the pass. Give it to McCaffrey. Third and 4. Rodgers to throw. Lofts it to the near side. It's caught for the touchdown to Punt Intended. Dalvin Cook, he's going to get a first down, and Dalvin Cook pushes his way toward the end zone. Upon him. They're going to give him.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS. No punt intended, right here on DSM Media. I think that's the first time all season I didn't butcher the name and thing together. All these DFSs and DMSs. I am Phil Stiefel, as always, joined by my partner in crime, Jason Sullivan here. And we got another special guest this week. As always, this is Braden from the Fantasy Team Advisors. It's a great website. You can find them on Twitter at advisors_team. Braden, I'm going to give you a moment here. Why don't you introduce yourself to the DSM Media family and what you do over there at Fantasy Team Advisors?
Thanks for having me. Just like you said, I run fantasyteamadvisors.com pretty much since 2014. So going right at about 7 years and a couple of months. Basically what you guys do, it's mainly fantasy sports. It's DFS. It's our best sport has been NFL. We've had multiple $25,000 winners from our optimal lineups. Bring optimal lineups, cheat sheets, this great matchup tool that I want to show you guys tonight. And just try to help you guys out. Baseball, football, basketball. We've tried hockey, but I've learned that I can't pronounce any of the names. So butchering names with hockey has been kind of hard. So kind of shy away from that, but MMA, gotten really into MMA when there was no other sport in 2020 going on at the time. I had to bet on something. I had to learn the names. I had to learn everything about MMA, and I got really into it, and DFS was there. So been getting really into that. So just trying to help everybody out with DFS, and hopefully I can help you guys out and help anyone who has any questions.
Absolutely. I mean, you say you got into MMA with the DFS because of 2020. That's how I got into DFS golf. I mean, I did it as a hobby, and we host a fantasy golf show. It's like if it wasn't for 2020, Fairway to Heaven on Tuesday nights might not even exist because, it was kind of like where I got my start at writing and breaking things down. So that's really cool. And you have a whole subscription service there with that. Yes. Right there. Yep. And tell everybody about that. And obviously they can find all that information on your website, right?
Yeah. So you can go to fantasyteamadvisors.com/plans. Just a couple of weeks ago, I switched it up. There used to be a day pass, a week pass, a month pass, a year and a lifetime pass, all different prices. Got a little confusing. And fantasyteamadvisors.com/plans. There's one subscription, $9.99 a month. You get 30 days for $9.99 a month. It includes every sport that we offer, cheat sheets, matchup tools, optimal lineups. We give the lineups out. I do suggest, tweak them a little bit just because DraftKings kind of came down on us because, the users have to have, like any optimizer out there, the users have to have a little bit of input or they're, they don't like that. So tweak it a little bit. But like I said, the intro, we've had multiple $20,000 winners. Unfortunately, it wasn't me. It was a subscriber, but I was there to help. And so Fantasy Team Advisors, $10 a month. You can get a lot.
That's almost better than winning yourself, saying that the company you run and create it help somebody else win 20,000. The amount
Agreed.
of pressure you can get just off of saying that is fantastic.
I mean,
I
you
can't
can
wait to check out
still
what you do with golf stuff. I think I saw that you do some golf
we
stuff.
do a
on there, too.
little bit. So
Well, we're gonna have to work on that then for our golf team here.
Definitely. They're I like to do just like the cheat sheet out there, but there's so many stats with golf, and you have to figure out which stats are relevant. You got to find the course out, you got to find the weather, how long is the grass cut, which way it is, what kind of grass. I mean, there's so much to go into it that I don't think a lot of people know about, or they don't take into account when they're building their lineups out there.
Absolutely. All right, Jason, how are we doing tonight? Good,
man. Yeah, this season's been a little bit of a roller coaster, so I'm looking forward to another week. I feel like I got a pretty good handle on it. I'm looking to see the new tools that we can use this week too, so I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick, and I was talking while we were trying to get Braden's audio before the show, corrected. I was telling you the question I want to start with tonight, theory-wise, before we start talking about games themselves, something that killed me last week was, and Jason, you said it, there are so many questionable players right now going into this week. We're week 6 now. So what kind of a plan do you normally have as a backup? Like last week, Christian McCaffrey on Friday afternoon seemed like he was playing. I had him in about 4 or 5 lineups, and all of a sudden he's out last second on Sunday, and now I'm scrambling to fill that spot. So what kind of a backup plan do you have with these questionable players, or do you try to stay away from as many of them as you can? Jason,
you want to go ahead?
Me first. Give you. Then I'll let Braden answer that. I don't want you to be silent the whole night.
So we were kind of talking about it a little bit before we went on the air. It's tricky. I feel like I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like more players are questionable all of a sudden this year than we've ever seen before. So it is tricky sometimes. For me, I don't always have a backup plan. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but I might go in if I find one of my guys is out and do a completely different lineup. Like I don't
clear the whole lineup.
Yeah, because I feel like whenever I just plug and play, it never really works out. Like my whole lineup, the whole way my lineup is built kind of goes out of flux a little bit. So yeah, I like to do a completely different lineup. But yeah, I've noticed. I don't know if you guys noticed that too, but I feel like you scroll through and it's like so many of these guys are questionable. You see guys like DeAndre Swift who practices in full every single week, but yet he has a questionable tag every single week. So it's interesting.
So Braden, when you're doing it, what would you advise your people to do in that kind of a situation?
So normally what I do is using the matchup tool or our cheat sheet, I'll find the top 5 plays. Then looking at those plays, I'll look at kind of like the salary, whether or not it's Fanduel, Draftkings, and kind of look at salaries around there. So if I need to plug and play, I can find, let's say you have a $7,200 running back and you have $100 left over. So you're going to have $7,300 to mess with. Depending on what time it is, you can just go in there, you can switch it if you have that player. I'm in the mindset of a lot of people, when they build their DFS lineups, they think they have to use the whole salary, and that's not true. You Absolutely. Can put some on, leave some on the table. That's a great method. They think that's why when they use like those big named optimizers, they use pretty much the entire salary. And that's probably why you don't see very many at the top, because you've got to differentiate a little bit. So I have a list of about 5 at each position. If they are questionable, I'll find a couple around the same price tag or a little bit lower or higher, depending. And then I'll go from there, building the lineup out.
Yeah, because I think that was where my mistakes were made last week. I mean, there was a couple guys I had that were out late, and I just went. So we'll just use. So you're talking about the 71s this week. Nick Chubb has already been ruled out, but if he was questionable, he's at 7,200. Just going to Ezekiel Elliott at 7,100 or Aaron Jones at 7,300 might not be always the smartest play if they have a bad matchup. And that's where I made my mistake last week. I just went with whoever was the next guy in line that could fit in without doing the research. And it probably cost me because, it did not work out in my favor there. So you bringing up differentiating yourself, leaving money on the table. We talk about that almost every single week on this show, the golf show, on every show. It's something that people definitely do not understand, on how they have to do that. You don't need that whole salary used at all.
Yeah, I think it's super tricky, especially we talk about it in golf all the time just because so many people are on the same guys in golf. But I feel like that's a great point too, in terms of late swaps or, last minute injury swaps out, like leaving extra money on the table gives you that flexibility. you know, like you said, Chubb's out at the last second. You don't necessarily have to go to Zeke. You can maybe go to a guy that's $300-400 more expensive, which is, I think that's a great point.
And that's something that brought up there, Braden. I don't know if you ever, used this theory before, making sure your flex spot is a late game. So that depending on how your lineup is, if you need a home run hitter or not, or somebody consistent to keep you where it is, you leave that flex spot to a 4 p.m. game if you can, when you're building, if it works out that way, to try to do that. I don't know if that's something you've ever done before. Or
yeah,
theory.
Huge. It's same thing. Like if you're in any fantasy, like a season-long fantasy football group, it's don't have a Thursday night flex player. It's the same thing with early games because, like a lot of people, like Nick Chubb he's out. We already know that.
Yeah.
So my thought process immediately is, well, Kareem Hunt next. He's got a questionable tag on him right now. But just looking at that, like he would be a player. It's a 405 game. So you would be in great spot if, he does end up playing. You've got the salary saved if you're going down from there. But yeah, like make sure. My question is, do you guys, is it just anyone when you're building your lineups? Is it just anyone in the flex, or my mindset, and this might be different, is running back because like a 3-down running back, because they're going to get, barring injuries, they're going to touch the ball probably more than a wide receiver, except, maybe Devontae Adams or someone who's going to get the ball every single time. But my thought is a flex later in the day running back, because that's going to give you the volume. If it's even a great matchup, that's even better for.
Yeah. The only way I differentiate from that is if I have to get a wide receiver. The wide receiver better be averaging. We talked about this on last week's show, that I really try to study the targets, not the trends in targets of wide receivers. So if I'm going to put a wide receiver in that flex spot, a 4 p.m. wide receiver, it better be somebody that's getting 12, 14, 16 targets a game and consistently going up or staying up there. I'm not going to put, a 3,000, bottom barrel wide receiver in my flex spot. It's going to have to be that. Or I will say it, and I don't think I'm wrong in saying this, I have used Travis Kelce in late games in my flex spot a few times. I think Travis Kelce's just a different breed and animal, which he's on my list to talk about this week.
He's basically a wide receiver. He's he
might be a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy purposes if you want to think of him that way.
Yep.
So it's interesting too. I thought it was interesting that you said the running back thing. So I actually do a little bit different. I always put a wide receiver, and it's always my most expensive wide receiver. I'm not opposed to putting a running back in that slot, but I just feel like a lot of the times that the wide receivers are they're more, how do I put this? Like, I guess their upside's a little bit greater sometimes than the running back. So I completely see the running back point of view, but I always put my most expensive receiver. So if I have Tyreek Hill in there, he's got a 1:00 game this week. But just for example, if I have Tyreek Hill in there, he's 8,500. I can pivot off to a less chalky running back or receiver. So I just feel like receivers have more of an upside. So in bigger contests, I often put the receiver in the flex spot. But
that's the other thing. The bigger contests versus the cash games totally change everything as well.
Yep.
For sure.
All right, so we keep talking about Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and all that stuff. So I just want to jump right into this Washington-Kansas City 1:00 game because it's got the highest over/under of the 1 and 4 o'clock games. Hypothetically speaking, it should have the most fantasy points coming out of it. Kansas City, though, Patrick Mahomes just looks a little off lately, but he's still Patrick Mahomes, and they got a lot going on. This is a game that I see myself using a lot of players from on both sides. Because I also think the Washington football team, the Tyler Heineke and those guys there are guys that could really put up some really strong fantasy numbers this week. Braden, what are your thoughts on that game as a whole this week? And do you think it's a game that people should be stacking and using a lot of players from?
I think it should be on paper. It should be high scoring. We should see a ton of points. I'm more inclined on the other side to kind of go Washington on offense because I think a lot of people are going to go Mahomes because I don't know if there's ever been a defense who's been as good as Washington was last year and then just complete opposite the next year. They're giving up. Just looking at the matchup tool that I have, if I sort it, they are giving up. The Washington football team is giving up points per game, 28.32 fantasy points per game to the quarterback, which that's Mahomes. He's super expensive, but he's not been playing as, he still has 16 touchdowns. So let's not get that. He's not running as much as he has in the past, probably the ankle injury, whatever we've got going on there. But on the flip side of that, Kansas City, they're giving up 28.2 fantasy points per game on DraftKings too. So, it is very similar. I think a lot of people are going to go Mahomes because it's Mahomes. Taylor Heineke, super cheap compared to Mahomes there. I absolutely love a Washington stack. Now, McLaren, obviously, I think is going to be probably the number one that they would pair with. Ricky Seals-Jones, I think, is super. Yeah, you got it written down.
Yeah, it's already written down there next to it. He's my pair with McLaurin big time this week.
Yeah, he's 3,000 on DraftKings.
That's a steal.
Yeah, and a lot of these came out before all the injury and all that stuff. But I'm one that makes multiple lineups. So let's say I have Mahomes. And whenever you want to get into it, they have just kind of looking wide receivers. And so what I do on the matchup tool is I'll do like the top 3 wide receivers on a team that should have an impact. Kansas City, there's 5. So, you've got Tyreek Hill, Hardman, Pringle, Demarcus Robinson, now Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon only had 1 reception, one target for 11 yards last week. They had to do the hurry up, and he had only seen the playbook like 3 days or something.
I think he only played 8 plays last week too. So I would assume that's going to grow.
And they said this week he should see more because now he's had all the time to prepare. But yeah, there are so many wide receivers that's the problem when you're building a Chiefs stack. You don't know where the ball is going to go.
Exactly.
So I'm one that would be like, yeah, I'll take, Kelsey, I think has to be in every single one of those stacks, but it'd be like Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey, maybe Darrell Williams now because he's cheaper as a running back, and then bring it back with that same game. So I'm taking the opposite wide receiver. So McLaren, or you could find.
What are your thoughts on Adam Humphries? Where is he on there? He had one bad game against Atlanta, but his targets jumped up to 5 targets, and they've got some issues with Brown and Sims. He's someone I could see getting even more targets in that slot against Kansas City's defense.
I have McLaren and Humphries on this sheet here. Both played 5 games. Humphries 153 yards in 5 games on 14 receptions, no touchdowns yet, but obviously something like this would change. So I'm going to be making probably a minimum of like 20 lineups, mixing and matching Mahomes, all of his wide receivers, flip side of that, Heineke, all of his wide receivers, flip side of that. You've got to have exposure to this game, but you've got to find those plays that are cheaper. So like a Byron Pringle, I think he got a touchdown last week. His ownership was probably like 3%. I don't know exactly what it is, but I am all in on this game. But I'm not just going to take the chalk. I'm going to find those plays that have lower ownership. Especially
I do 20 entries. I max out every week, whether it's a quarter lineup, a dollar lineup. I'm a small player. But normally my favorite game is always anywhere from 7 to 10 lineups at least are coming from it, if not more. If a game like this where I like both sides, it could even be higher. But yeah, I'm definitely personally like you leaning towards the Heineke and starting there and then coming back with maybe a Kelsey or something like that. I don't know. I just think, Jason, where are you with this game?
So I love this game too. I have a couple of interesting tidbits to kind of add to this. So I've kind of studied the whole, like the Chiefs, like you said, they have 5 options on offense just from the receiving game. So it's been a little bit tricky. It's either been Tyreek Hill, which it's only really been once, or it's been everybody else where you see Kelsey, Pringle, Hardman, those guys. So you almost have to kind of pick one or the other a little bit in a way. So I really do like this game. I have a couple of things that worry me a little bit. Terry McLaurin didn't practice today. He showed up for practice, attempted to practice, and couldn't go because of his hamstring. So that makes me a little bit nervous on that side of the ball. But I love him. If he plays, the guy, 11 targets three times this year already. So the guy just gets tons of targets. Heineke looks at him. And I like Heineke too. I played him last week, which kind of burned me a little bit. But I heard today that last week was the first time that Heineke did not put up at least 20 fantasy points in any game that he started, including the playoffs last year. So it's interesting. He's kind of a gunslinger a little bit, but he also brings rushing upside. He's had at least 20 rushing yards in all the starts too. So I like it a lot. I think Mahomes is going to be super popular, like you said. he's been better in fantasy than he's looked in real life too. I mean, he has a low this season of 22 points. So it's not like he's struggling fantasy-wise. And like you said, 16 touchdowns. It just – he hasn't really hit that Mahomes-like stretch yet. So it'll be interesting.
On a side note, when he runs or even moves around the pocket, he just does not look right, does he?
Right.
I mean, there's definitely something off with Patrick Mahomes.
Yep, I agree on that one as well.
I guess his just overall talent level is keeping him at least at a decent level. All right, let's dive into another game. Braden, do you have another game that you love this week that you want to talk about, or do you want to just keep throwing games at you?
I mean, it just depends. I love Josh Allen. I was all over him last week. So each week we do rankings, which are on the website. He was my number one last week. He's my number one quarterback this week. Just depending, and it's dependent on the price. Like Mahomes has looked great in fantasy, but his price is. They price him like he's the MVP he was. So you've got to find the discrepancies in the price and the fantasy points per game. But the problem is that's what the Monday night game. So you can't really build lineups with that. But just kind of looking at other ones, Dallas, New England side of the ball with Dallas's defense giving up some points. It's 50.5 over under. Mac Jones is one of my quarterbacks that I like. You could pair him with Jacoby Myers. You could pair him with Aguilar, as long as he can continue to not drop passes.
You're talking about Philadelphia Eagles.
That's why I said that.
I know all about that.
That's why I brought that up. But yeah, I mean, I like that matchup there. You just trying to target the one that I feel like a trap. It's Arizona and Cleveland, just because Cleveland's defense has been so good. I know it's Kyler, but he did not look good last week.
That burned me last week. That was my number one stack last week. And I had him. I had some combination of that Murray and his team in at least 7 or 8 lineups last week. So really hurt
that
me a
game's
lot.
interesting too, because Cleveland's defense, like you said, has been a lot better, but Clowney I don't think is going to play again this week. So that makes their pass rush not quite as good. So I don't mind him as much. I felt like Cleveland's kind of been really, really solid this year, but I feel like that could maybe keep people off this week. And they're not the same defense without Clowney in there.
Yeah. I still think I'm going to be sprinkling some of them in there. I mean, Murray, he had a bad game last week, but he's still, a top tier quarterback. He's still got a great team, great weapons. I mean,
the only thing that worried me about Murray last week is I think he only had 1 rushing attempt last week.
Well, he had 7 rushing attempts, but 1 yard.
Okay, 1 yard. Yeah.
I got his thing up here.
Yeah,
I'm actually surprised. I talk about trends all the time. Maybe I should trust that theory and not be playing him, because if you think about it, week 1, almost 35 points in fantasy on DraftKings, 38 plus in week 2. Then it dropped to 22 points for week 3 and 4, and then down to 13 points last week against San Francisco. And again, Cleveland's got a really strong defense. So, maybe that is a game that I'm thinking to stay away from now. Again, I had liked Murray, but then stacking Cleveland the Cleveland Brown, like Kareem Hunt, Joku, and guys like that. But maybe I have to rethink that theory.
The one thing about Cleveland, they are bad against wide receiver ones. So I could see Nuke having a really good game. He hasn't really been that great this year, but I could see him having.
I know. I said last week was going to be the week he went off.
I know, right?
Bombed at that one.
He played okay last week.
He had a touchdown.
Yeah.
Jason, do you have another game you want to start targeting here?
Yeah, I feel like from a value standpoint, I feel like Matt Stafford continues to be undervalued.
And you guys just steal my cheat sheets. Every guest and Jason must. There's got to be a camera in here right now.
So almost 24 points a game for Stafford. I feel like he's not getting the price bump that he really deserves to be. He's been at an MVP level this year, so I like him a lot. I'm going to stack him with Robert Woods just because he's a little bit cheaper. 30 points last game. It was kind of the game that we were waiting for. I think he had 16
I called that. I won so much money on that showdown because I put Robert Woods as my MVP 1.5, whatever you want to call it. I had a very good lineup last week on that one. I was all over that one.
So I like those two guys, stacking those two guys. You could go Cup too, obviously. I like coming back on the other side with Kadarius Toney. 5,600. He's had 9 and 13 targets in the past 2 games. So I like him as the number 1 option in that.
Targets trending up. Actually, he's the reason why I brought up the opening question with question marks. Because, again, he's a guy. I love Toney this week against the Rams. They're going to be passing. I don't care who's the quarterback, whether Daniel Jones plays or Mike Glennon. He's going to get double-digit targets, no doubt about it, Toney. But, again, if you look at him at 5,600 and then all of a sudden an hour before that game, he doesn't play, then you're left with Pittman, Myers, Tyler Boyd, and then I'm forced to make a last second decision there, and that's what scares me.
For sure.
Because you also have to look about the rest of that area. But I like your idea about just deleting it and starting it all over again. So I got one more game that I, in theory, should like, but for some reason I'm having trouble. I built a bunch of different combinations, but I just don't know where to go with it. Justin Herbert and the Chargers against the Ravens. I have a feeling that could be another one of those super high scoring games. Lots coming from it, but I mean, you stack them with Williams is now more expensive than Allen for the Chargers, which never would have thought that. You never know who's running the ball with the Ravens. You can throw Mark Andrews as your tight end, I guess. Braden, what are your thoughts on the Chargers-Ravens game?
I do have this in my running back rankings this week. I have Eckler number one.
Yes.
He's running the ball, but he's also taking passes. He's getting targets as well, which on DraftKings, that's what counts. I mean, 33.9 fantasy points last week against Cleveland. Their defense is good. It's better than Baltimore. The week before that against Vegas, 32.5. Week 3, 22.7. Week 2, 22.5. And then week 1, 11.7, which he was I think he was nursing a hamstring or whatever that injury was. But
he's always nursing something.
Yeah, he is. I love Austin Eckler because it's kind of like a cheat sheet. So let's say you use Herbert and you pair him with what you can go Allen, you can go Williams, whoever you want to go with. If you pair him with Eckler as well, that's kind of like a second wide receiver because he's getting those targets. So that's double the points there, and he's running the ball. So I do like this side of the ball. I think a lot of people are going to be on Baltimore because Lamar just put up like 47 fantasy points, something like that.
Yeah.
I need it. Literally, he's on my DSM media fantasy team. He's my quarterback. And I was down like 30 points going into Monday Night Football.
A lot of people.
And I won by double digits. I was like,
yeah,
this
a
is
lot
fantastic.
Of people. Yep. But yeah, so I love Herbert this week. Like I said, you got to figure out which wide receiver is going to go off because you really never know. But Mike Williams has been trending up. He has 471 yards on 31 catches. Keenan Allen has 34 catches for 369. And then if you want to get a little bit crazy, Jalen Guyton, 8 for 13, 106. So while he's not up there, he's still over 100 yards. Just depend. That would be one if you're playing and you're making multiple lineups. I would have one with Herbert, Williams, Eckler, and then Herbert, Allen, Eckler, and then throw in Guyton in there because I think Eckler might be in almost all of my lineups this week.
Yeah,
okay,
agreed.
Well,
100% agree with that too, especially because Baltimore is awful, absolutely awful against the run. I mean, even the Lions ran all over Baltimore. So
yes,
yeah. So Eckler, I completely agree with you. Eckler's my favorite play in all of DFS this week too. So he's getting the goal line work, which that's kind of what was stopping him last year. He wasn't getting the touchdowns.
Yep.
He's getting all the work this year. They're using him almost like Christian McCaffrey now at this point. So I love him. Baltimore, like I said, it's terrible against the run. The interesting thing I think is on the other side, if you do happen to use Baltimore, I guess who do you stack? I guess that's my biggest question. The Chargers are tough on wide receivers, especially the number 1 wide receiver. They just don't give up deep balls at all. So I feel like that almost takes Marquise Brown out of your options this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think this first time we're 100%, 3 for 3 on our favorite player this week. Eckler was my guy, not just in like trying to figure out this Chargers Ravens game, but also I always try to find some value stacks, whether it's going with the Patriots, like you said, doing that Rams Giants team. I will find a way to get Eckler in all the lineups as well. And even if that means I have to go with a cheaper stack or cheaper game elsewhere so that I can afford Eckler, Eckler's got to play everywhere this week. I mean, if the guy stays healthy, I mean, he could finish the season high enough ranked where he's first, second overall next year in fantasy draft. I mean, he's that talented of a wide receiver when it comes to or running back when it comes to fantasy.
For sure. He's underpriced too at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, I didn't even look at his price. I know it's underpriced, but yeah.
Eckler 7,900.
7,900.
Yep.
So
that's
not
too cheap for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, now technically because McCaffrey's out, he is technically the highest priced wide running back right now.
Right.
Yeah. So it's crazy. All right. Any other games you guys want to talk about or
So I have a value stack that you might like.
Uh-oh. I love value stacks.
So I like the Indy and Houston game as a value stack. Your boy, Carson Wentz, 5,400. I feel like
Had a big game on Monday night.
it's too cheap of a price. He did have a good game last game. He had 26 points, but he's averaged 18 points a game. So it's not been terrible, at least 31 attempts in each game. So I don't mind that at all. Houston's defense is obviously terrible. So I like stacking him with Pittman. Pittman has been really solid, 15 points per game, 8.6 targets per game, at least 6 catches in 4 games in a row. So he's really solid. And then Brandon Cooks kind of is a little bit underappreciated on the other side. He's ran into 2 absolutely horrible matchups in a row with New England and Buffalo, but he is solid. And, I feel like he's definitely worth the price at 5,500. So that's my cheap stack. Leaves you with 5,550 per player. So that's super cheap.
And you could throw Austin Eckler in there. You have plenty of money to afford Austin Eckler to add that. That's the kind of stack I'm looking at to then throw Eckler in there to match up with it. That was something I talked about on one of the first shows this season was, the value stacks to come back with the big name guys later on. So, I'm not even sure what the other games are. I literally had only written down 4 games for tonight, to talk about that I liked. And
those are the best ones.
4 games I liked. The Cowboys game, the Cowboys because of the Pats, the Chargers, the Washington Chiefs game, and the Cardinals game because I was confused. So, so Braden, if you want, I know I showed you how you could share your screen. If you want to bring it up on the screen so you could show people, you keep talking about your rankings and your charts and stuff. I mean, I'm curious to see more about this stuff as well.
Yep. So
I've even maximized the screen so I could see it all really well here.
The problem is there's so much data, there's so many columns that it doesn't fit on a full screen. So you have to, and I don't know if it works if you don't have, or if you do have OneDrive, but you can open this document up and you can sort it. Is it on the screen right now?
It's I have to put. Sorry, let me put it up there.
Okay.
There we go.
So you can't.
There we go. See, I just took us off the screen, so
Okay.
everybody could see this zoomed in, but we can hear each other. Everybody could see this. It's a lot of content here.
It's a lot. So, through the first, I want to say through the first 4 weeks of the season, I had the 2020 defense, the stats, and that was it. Because they're kind of skewed with only 3 or 4 weeks in. But this will be the second week with the 2021 stats. So just for anyone watching, how to read it, these are the defenses on the left side. And these are all of the stats they gave up in 2020 to each position. So quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So let's just say quarterback, for instance. All of these right here, and you can sort it any way you want. If you want to go build lineups using defenses from 2020 because you don't think 2021 has had enough information, you can do that. But yeah, so this is a lot of work. I write off ESPN and I do this all by hand Monday through pretty much Thursday before the first game of the week. So just kind of going through, you can sort it how you want. You can sort it by DraftKings fantasy points total for 2020 or Fanduel, and then you can go by points per game, same thing, or you can use 2021 here, DraftKings Fanduel. So just for this show, let's say total fantasy points allowed. Let's see. So you can see Washington and Kansas City give up the most amount of fantasy points to the quarterback position. They've got it. That's probably why it's the highest over-under of the week. But you can kind of go through here. You can see all of this. Oh, my watch is listening to me. You can
that one Google commercial, my Google Nest picks it up every single time.
Does it?
And it scares the dog. It scares whoever's sitting in my living room.
I heard a voice to my left, and I had no idea what's going on because it's.
I had to unplug it. I don't even have it plugged in anymore.
But I don't remember where. So yeah, you can just kind of go through, and you can see the players that you want, quarterbacks here. It's all the stats through here. It's kind of self-explanatory. These are the players you want to target. The left side, all of the stats are the defenses, how bad they are or how good they are.
So right now we're targeting David Mills here, according to this.
Davis, yes.
Davis. I always call him David. Sorry, Davis Mills.
You can. just because of the Colts defense. Again, though, I mean, this is 2021. There's only 5 weeks of stats, so anything can be skewed. It doesn't take into effect, like, I don't know a defensive player on the Colts right now, but let's say their biggest guy has been out all week or all year. Now he comes in and might skew it a little bit. So that's why I have the 2020 stats there as well. But again, the problem with that is, like we said earlier, Washington was so good last year and now they're so bad. So using their stats last year, probably, like, let's just say, let's go DraftKings, points per game, Washington. Just if we were going off last year's stats, Washington's down at the bottom here. So I mean, it's skewed a little bit, but it's all this information. And the thing is, yes, you can find this on the internet wherever you look. It's true. It is scattered on the internet, but I've not found one source that you can find it in one thing right here. And this is part of the $9.99. This right here is worth the $10 a month just by itself. But I mean, you got running backs. So what I try to do is, like, there's one running back for, running back one. Some teams are going to have two. So, like, I'm going to have to edit this and take McCaffrey out because he's been out. I haven't updated this with that news. But, like, Gibson, McKissick go through. There's two Washington ones. Like the Rams, I know Sonny Michel is there. I don't add the running backs at this time if I don't think they're going to have an impact on the game. But like the Ravens, it's a mess back there. I have Murray and Freeman right now. Tyson might be there. He might be a healthy scratch. They might bring up Le'Veon. It's a mess. So, but they have a good matchup. The problem is who's going to get the ball. There's just, and I mean, you can scroll through. Oh, let me make this bigger. You can't see it. The problem is there's so much data. It's hard to capture. But
I'm impressed that you do this all by hand. I mean, this is
for sure.
Yes,
painstaking. And you said you have a 1.5-year-old child. I mean, do you sleep ever?
Luckily right now you're looking at my work from home desk for my day job. So my work computer is right here and I can work on this in between. But if I didn't work from home, there'd be no way. I would have no time to do this. There's just like so much information. Same thing with wide receivers. Like I was saying, the Eagles, I put the top three. They had the second best matchup of the week, but they didn't. I mean, Hurts didn't do anything. Like, he kept overthrowing, and you watched the game. I mean, Devonta Smith should have had a great game. He got me like 4 fantasy points in my season long. But it just, Steelers have the third worst. They've given up the third worst against, well, I think this is, so this is with sorting by DraftKings. But then which Geno Smith are we going to get? So there's a lot of other factors. And this does not factor weather. That's another thing, rain, wind, stuff like that. Lightning wasn't there lightning in a dome? Two Mondays ago somehow. It didn't make any sense. But there's just a ton of information. Hopefully helps everyone out. Most of them I'll have wide receiver 1, 2, 3. The Chiefs have 5. Giants have 4, depending on who's going to be back. Washington really have only 2. Cardinals, that's kind of another one. There's 4 there. You got Hopkins, Kirk, Moore, Green. Who's going to be the one that takes the most passes and has the most fantasy points from Kyler? Really depends. But this is all there. FantasyTeamAdvisor.com under the NFL tab, matchup tool. And from all of this, I've taken the 5 best matchups and put them right here on the screen. This is DraftKings, though. I've got DraftKings, Fanduel. There's just a couple of differences with the scorings, a little bit different on the screen. Same thing, running backs for both, I think, are the same. Wide receivers I think the wide receivers are exactly the same. Just the pricing's different, obviously. And then, I don't know if you have a segment later, but I've got value plays for both sites.
We could do value plays real quick. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I love value plays. I love hearing about value plays.
So just looking at the projections, the matchup tool, the pricing, top 5 quarterbacks on DraftKings, Mac Jones, number one at his price at 5,200. Heineke here at 5,800 against Kansas City. I mean, he might be my favorite value at quarterback. And what you guys were talking about earlier, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff found his way on this list. You gotta. This is.
I've played the value stack of Jared Goff twice this year. Burned me every time.
This is a GPP play, and this is only a play if you make multiple lineups. If you're a cash player, you only make 5 lineups. I'm no way. You're not going Goff, but he did make the list. So did Davis Mills against Indy at 5,200. I mean, these are very cheap. Bring it down to running backs. Khalil Herbert, because Williams is out now. He's going to be super popular, though. So I don't know how much value you're going to get out of him if you're playing like his. I bet Herbert's ownership's massive at 4,600.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't. 35%, give or take. Darrell Williams. I mean, with CEH out, Washington not be able to stop anyone. He's probably going to be kind of popular too. Booker, Williams, Dillon, with the top 5 there. You guys think you'll have any exposure to these running backs when you're building yours?
Well, I may have some of Williams. I tried literally 3 of these guys I tried to pick up in the DSM league because I lost CEH. So I tried to pick up Williams, I tried to pick up Booker, and I tried to pick up Williams, and I lost out on the waiver wire on all 3 of them. So
hey, you know who got Herbert?
Who?
You're not looking at him.
Well, I'm not looking at anybody right now because
I know.
got the screen zoomed in. No, Williams definitely. Booker, I'm not sure about, but Dillon, I'm not sure. You know,
he's so. This would be another play where you're making multiple lineups.
Right.
The thing is, he's stealing some plays from Jones.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, not a ton. I mean, he has back-to-back double-digit fantasy points.
Mm-hmm.
He had 8 attempts, 30 yards, but he had 49 yards in the air. So he's getting those catches. It depends. It's a GPP play. Probably more only on DraftKings because you're going to get those extra points for those catches.
Mm-hmm.
At 4,900, I mean, Eckler, he's in every single one of my lineups. You can build lineups around. Will they hit? If I had the answer to that, I probably wouldn't be talking to you guys because I'd be a multi-millionaire and I would be somewhere else. But he's more of a GPP only. I'm not putting him in cash and DraftKings only specific because of the pass catching there.
Okay.
Wide receivers, we talked about Brandon Cooks. Love Brandon Cooks against Indy. It doesn't matter. It apparently doesn't matter who his quarterback is. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to get you fantasy points. Mooney, he made the list. I don't know if I'll have any exposure to him. Jacoby Myers, we talked about with Mac Jones. I love Mac Jones. Jacoby would be there with him.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Hardman.
Love Hardman this week.
The problem is there's so many mouths to feed. We don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because of Pringle last week.
Yes.
It's like if one has it last week, the other one gets it the next week.
That's feels like what the trend has been the past few seasons. Hopefully that continues this week. But yeah, I'm on Hardman there. T. Higgins because of his price, and it's Detroit.
Sorry, Jason. Anybody against Detroit is a positive play.
Yeah. Are you a Lions fan?
Yes, unfortunately.
Jared Goff. But yeah. I mean, tight ends. Ricky Seals-Jones, we talked about at the beginning. 3,000 against Kansas City. Fantastic. Mark Andrews. I don't understand the pricing, but they're not priced high. Like, it's 5,200, but kind of just looking, he's the 3rd highest. So, I mean, Kelsey, obviously 7,000. Andrews at 5,200. I love him because the Chargers are the 3rd worst. I think they're the 3rd worst team against tight ends, and he's coming off a massive game.
Yeah.
And his price, I love that price, and you're able to fit in there. Komet here at 2,800. I didn't even know it's possible to be under 3,000, but here we are. Conklin, it depends on if his quarterback can hit him wide open instead of overthrowing there. And then Hunter Henry, if you are doing that New England stack, love Hunter Henry, Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers. I think they're going to be a popular stack, but if you can change your lineup around, I really like those 5 tight ends as well. So, I mean,
there's no doubt that I'm playing Ricky Seals.
Yeah. Oh,
in a lot of lineup. And again, like you said, he's probably going to have a higher percent than he's ever had this week. But you know what? He's a must play.
Yep, I think that as well. So
you know what, too? I think that's a good point about Andrews too, because the Chargers, what they do best is they take away the deep ball. They're not going to let you beat them over the top. That's just their philosophy. So I think Andrews might have a huge game.
Yeah. So just kind of looking this, the third. Well, technically it's the second. I've got the Colts at number 1 on tight ends. Mo Alley Cox or Jack Doyle. Don't know who's going to get that. Andrews here's got 400 yards. I realize a third of those yards came last week.
Right.
But I have Mark Andrews as the number 1 tight end this week over Kelsey. And I got a lot of flack for that. I put all these out on Reddit, and I don't know if you guys use the fantasy football subreddit.
Yeah, for sure.
People are out. Can I cuss on here or no?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
People are assholes. Those people on Reddit are just complete assholes when it comes to anything that doesn't. I don't even know. It's like it doesn't.
If it's not their stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Dude, I've been banned from. I've had so many different Reddit accounts banned because I go in there and they're like, oh, well, you got to contribute 70 to 30. So I do nothing but contribute for like 3 weeks straight, and I post one thing, and they're like, you're banned.
What I've found is I have Rappaport's Twitter notifications on. So the thing is, there's one Redditor that he has, I thought it was a bot, but it's not. He has this up in like 13 seconds from the tweet. So you have to have everything ready. So I'll throw out these tweets and I'll post that. And then on Wednesdays, I'll post my rankings. And if I've contributed enough, waiver wire Tuesdays, I put like 16, I actually help people, but like type like help 16, 17 people. I'm contributing more than I'm putting on there. So it helps and the views go up. My rankings get about 5,000 views a week, but I turn the comments off. I don't even go look at the comments because they're absolutely terrible no matter what. So
I think it's been at least a year since I've gotten onto Reddit because I got so frustrated with it. I'll just stick to the Twitter comments and the trolls on there. Somebody made a burner account to come at me today. So, hey, it's all good.
Yeah.
I already have an idea of one of the 2 people that it was. So, it is what it is. All right. So, Braden, we do a thing here where we have a little 3-way competition, me versus Jason versus whoever our guest is. We just do a $2-3 whatever on DraftKings. We pick our lineups live on the air. Last week's guest, Rob, won again.
Yep.
Rob beats us every time we have him on our fantasy golf show or this show. He's just way too smart for us. But we're going to pick a lineup. It could be unique. It could have like if I pick Eckler and you do, that's fine. There's no rules. It's just winner take all. It's just for bragging rights. Yeah. I've won once. We've been doing this show and the golf show since about January, and I have won one time in this 3-way competition.
So the only catch is we don't late swap. So whatever you put in on here is what you go with.
Yeah, you have to, unless there's an injury, you have to keep your lineup.
Yeah. Unless there's an injury. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So hang on 1 second here.
I can stop sharing. There we go.
Yeah, I got to bring up the DraftKings so everybody watches as we pick it. Guest gets to go first, so you get first crack at it too, which is makes it easy for you. So where do you want to go with your lineup? You could start anywhere on your lineup. It could be any spot. Who do you want to go with?
I'm going Eckler.
Obviously,
right there. Yeah.
All right. You're gonna pick your whole lineup.
Okay.
And Jason's gonna write it down because Jason's the rules official here.
Okay. So we're not gonna have like a 3-man competition. It's just we're gonna enter this somewhere else.
No. I'm gonna create an event private just for the 3 of us, and I'm gonna send it to you. I got to get your DraftKings, information, and I'll send it after this. Yeah.
Okay.
So you give me all your guys here.
Let's go Heineke at quarterback.
And it's gonna make it so tough for me because you guys are gonna take all the guys that I like. All right.
I'm going to go McLaurin. I'm going to go back on that and pair him up there. And then Ricky Seals-Jones. I'm going Washington stack here.
Obviously.
Man. So then I'm going to go Tony at wide receiver afterwards.
Shit.
I know. It's like literally every person I would want to take in this lineup. But it's good. At least, the positive, even though it's
Yeah.
5 guys in, the positive thing here is obviously you do this for a living, to an extent. You put a lot of effort into it. At least I know my mindset this week going into building my lineups is at least somewhat on par where it should be at this point.
I usually, it just depends. I like to defense is where I just kind of punt. I'm just going to go the Packers because that's my team. And they're going up against, I know Justin Field, but he hasn't looked the best.
Normally I go to the bottom for defense, or the bottom 4 or 5, but this week, because there's so much, I think when I was what I do is my process before the show is I look at the game totals, I look at the worst defenses, and I find the games I like to stack. But, for some reason, I feel like there's enough value out there this week where you might be able to go up a little bit on a defense.
Yep. So wide receivers, I can kind of look what I'm averaging, about 5,600.
You got
looking
56,
off
66. You got your running back, wide receiver, and flex left.
Go. Do I want to bring it back with? Can you go to the Kansas City Washington game?
Absolutely. Hang on.
And then
the first one that makes it so easy.
Yep.
All right,
And
so that's what you got there.
Like Josh Gordon is telling me to take him, but I don't know what he's going to get. Demarcus Robinson had a touchdown as well. I'm going to go Hardman here. All right, he's at the top at 4,200.
I think that's a great price for Hardman, 40.
Yeah.
The same team.
Yeah.
The winner take all thing is getting split 2 ways.
6,400 is not bad for running backs. Can we go to running backs and let's go
bring that game off of there?
Yeah, let's check out. And I'm strictly going off my matchup tool that you guys can find at fantasyteamadvisors.com.
That's what I love. I love that you have a tool. You're the first guy that has a tool that's brought onto the show.
Yes. How much is? Oh, you can't. Seahawks and Steelers are the Sunday night game, so that's out. I've already got Eckler. I don't want to stack too much there. Joe Mixon, is that in there too?
Joe Mixon is at 6,400 exactly,
and he is questionable, but he's gonna play. So let's put Joe Mixon in there.
Okay.
Just to let you know, I wrote my lineup down before we started, just so you can't accuse me of anything.
Normally, I have a lineup written down. Just so you guys know, I'm going completely off the top of my head here. I have no prep done for this one.
So
6,400. That puts you at Allen, Swift, Mattinson.
Keenan
Sutton,
Allen is there.
Woods.
We talked about that. Kareem Hunt is there. He's not going to have much. But he's
Remember, you don't have to worry about ownership percentage, really,
That's true.
Leaving money on the table because it's just 3 of us.
Let's go Darrell Henderson. I think I'm going to go.
Henderson?
I'm going to take. I know what you guys said. I'm going to take my strategy of a running back in the flex. I can't remember. Is that a later game?
The Rams Giants.
It's a 1 o'clock.
It's a 1 o'clock game.
Yeah.
But if I were going to go off there, then I was looking at Robert Woods about the same exact game, and you can't fit him there. So, I know what we talked about, but I like this slide. I'm going to go with this one.
All right. I didn't write it down, Jason. I hope you did, and I hope you wrote it down as well, Braden, because I won't remember it.
I was going to say half my lineup's the same, so
I'll just take a screenshot.
Yeah, that's what I say there. Yeah, take a quick screenshot before I delete it. And Jason, I'll let you. Well, since you have no idea what you're doing now, I'm gonna go next. I always go last. I'm gonna go second this time. I'm gonna steal more of your guys. All right, here we go. Clear that screen out. All right, I think I've decided where I'm starting, and I think we're gonna go with Matthew Stafford.
You fucking jerk.
Dude, I love you, Jason. You're
I probably shouldn't say F-bombs on here, but sorry.
Yeah, Robert Woods. I was gonna go Tony with him.
Oh my
but
God!
I think
the same team as both of you.
To be different, we're gonna stay away from that. Where else do I go then from that game? Because I got to bring up somebody else here from this game at least. Oh man, maybe I'll go Evan Ingram. Yeah, we'll come back to that tight end spot. We'll leave that in there for a second. All right, let me see. I hate to do it. We might go 100%. No, I'm not going 100% with Eckler. I got to find something different here. So I got to break my losing streak. Absolutely. Let me look at my sheet here because, like I said, I did literally no prep for today, which is very unlike me. Yeah. So we're gonna go Humphreys from the Washington game as another cheap play. because I do like that play there. That was somebody I had on my list. We're going to put my defense in there. Why not? We'll go Cincinnati because Detroit's offense is terrible. So we're there. We got 6,700 for 2 running backs, a flex, and a wide receiver. Let's look at the wide receivers real quick here. Where am I going to go this week? I think we're going to go back to the Chargers game because I do like the Chargers game. So we'll go Keenan Allen for sure. That finishes out my wide receivers. Running back 6,800. I wanted Chubb in my lineup. Man. So real quick, where are your thoughts on Dalvin Cook this week? I know Carolina's got a great defense, and he's just coming back from an injury. Is his workload going to be increased this week? I'm just stalling for time while I think about my lineup here.
I think what Madison did last week, I think that I'm not going to say he's going to cut in all the time, but if he's not 100% healthy, Madison, I mean.
So the tricky part is Madison didn't practice today either. He's got a shoulder injury. So
yeah. Yep, I got that notification.
Yeah.
I like Cook. I just don't know I don't think he's healthy. So I wouldn't trust him. But if you want to put him in there because I'm facing you, I'm okay with that.
No, he's not in. Just so you know, he's not. All right. So while you guys were stalling there for me, I put Kareem Hunt and I did take Austin Eckler. I don't care. I got to put him in there. Hopefully that means Jason doesn't take him. That leaves me with 6,500. I liked Hunt coming into this week. Chubb being out, I don't like him as much. But in this 3-way battle, I don't think it's as big of a deal. I'm going to go with Hunt. Leaves me with 6,500. And maybe I flip-flop a running back to flex here. What time's that game? And the Baltimore game is early. So all the guys that I want in that flex spot are all early game guys. So we're going to go Antonio Gibson there as well. Again, if somebody's out, I am more than welcome to switch them out if they get ruled out at the last second. But, yeah, this is like the quickest, most little thought process lineup I've ever built. And I'm probably going to win because I didn't put any thought into it.
Quickest. It took like 10 minutes, but all right.
Oh, my God, Jason. All right, Jason, you're up there, bro.
All right. Since all my picks are already taken, I'm going to –
now I'm looking at the screen. There's other names I forgot about.
Listen, I'm going to get unique. I'm going to go with the Texans defense.
All right,
2,200.
Texans defense.
Building from the strength. You
just talked about how much you love the Wentz stack, and you're going to go with the Texans defense.
I know, right? Just because they're cheap. I'm going Matty Stafford.
Stafford as well. All right.
I'm going Stafford and Woods also.
All right. This is way too out of control, the amount of copying. We are all way too much on the same page this week.
So I'm going Eckler also.
Oh, my God. What's the point of that now?
I was going to go Mixon, but I'm going to leave that spot open for right now.
Man, you just ruined this whole theory here, going 3 for 3 with a player.
Right. So I'm going to go Seals Jones too at tight end.
Okay.
I'm also going Hardman at wide receiver. Hardman.
And he's just keeping his lineup, even if it's a copy.
All right. What do I got left for salary? I might change it a little bit here.
You got a running back, wide receiver, and a flex.
So I'm going to go Mixon at running back.
Okay.
Second best running back play of the week this week.
Okay. Well, it's Detroit, so yeah, absolutely.
What does that leave me left? I'm gonna go Hardman. Did I already go Hardman? I'm gonna go Tony.
Tony?
Yep. And then I'm gonna go Nuke at flex. Hopkins.
There we go. Sorry. My mouse, stuck a little bit there. You can go Hopkins there. All right. Yeah. Hopkins burned me last week because I really expected a lot more out of him, but yeah, that's not bad. All right. So everybody, that's how it is. That's what we got here. Man, interesting week here. I think it's the first time that all three of us, well, the two of us and our guest, have been so close on par and on the same page with so many plays and so many games. I think that's good because, at least it means we're all on the same, wavelength here. Again, fantasy team advisors. I actually, I had seen you from the content group that we're in together. I'd seen some of your stuff, but now seeing it like all on screen like this. Braden, you're doing some awesome work there. I love it. I really do.
You got at least one subscriber for sure.
Yes, exactly. You might get a subscriber or two out of this. Maybe some of our listeners will check in as well. If you do, send them a message. Say you saw it, on DFS, no pun intended, on DSM Media. You got to get your golf stuff together too. We'll work with you on your golf stuff because we've been bouncing around from a couple different sites to for different modeling sites and stuff like that for golf. So we'll have to talk to you about the golf stuff because that's where our bread and butter is on the Daily Fantasy Golf.
So Tuesday, if you guys do a show and you need someone, I think Tuesdays are better than Thursdays. So I'll just kind of look around. I'll look at some of the golf stuff. And if you guys need someone you need, I would love to do like a matchup tool for that, but I feel like there'd be a lot of work into it. Yes,
exactly. The modeling on it is insane. So thank you so much for coming on. We greatly appreciate it. Any parting thoughts before we wrap this show up there, Braden?
Just thanks for having me. If anyone watching does subscribe, throw me an email or on Twitter. Email support@fantasyteamadvisors.com. Twitter's @advisors_team. If you say you saw it on here, I'll give you get a month. I'll give you a free month. So, I mean, $10 for 2 months.
That's awesome.
And just the matchup tool itself should pay for it. With that, you get, as of right now, you get MMA, NFL, PGA. I don't know about NASCAR. It's not been as popular, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on it.
DFS NASCAR?
Yes. Yes, there are. Yeah. it gets a little bit different, but so just if you guys do subscribe to fantasyteamadvisors.com/plans, sign up and then let me know via email or Twitter, and I'll give you guys an extra month on.
And you can find him on Twitter @advisors_team.
Yep.
I have that right? Yeah. Gotcha.
Advisors_team, correct. Yep.
Yeah. Gotcha. Awesome. Hey, Jason, thanks for coming on as always, my brother. Love you. And everybody, this is DFS, no punt intended, on DSM Media. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow button, retweet, share. You know the drill. Click all those buttons, whichever outlet you're watching. We're back on YouTube. YouTube's back up and running. You know, that whole travesty is over. All right. We're happy to be back everywhere. We'll get this Twitter thing fixed eventually where your comments can come through on the screen. Everybody have a great night. Oh, is Michigan State playing tonight or tomorrow night?
Oh, tomorrow. 6-0, baby.
6-0.
Go Hawks, number 2 in the nation. Let's go.
Oh, Iowa Hawks. Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about how
number
you guys
2.
embarrassed yourself against Penn State last week. Storming the field like you won a national championship game when you knocked our quarterback out, early in the game. Come on now.
It's what happens
over the top there.
It's what happens when your amazing head coach tells them to take a dive every time momentum's up and then jump right up afterwards.
Yeah.
Boo that man.
And honestly, I'm not even a Penn State fan. I'm supposed to be, but I'm not.
My favorite thing is there's still articles coming out where he's getting other coaches to say he's a good guy, and it's not. He doesn't teach that. So, Iowa, number 2. I fully don't expect to go undefeated. I fully don't. I don't know. I've never seen them number 2, and would love to go to the Big Ten championship game. Hopefully they're in it. I know last time they were in it, Michigan stated it all over them. And then the Christian McCaffrey
his day right now.
Yeah, McCaffrey at the Rose Bowl. We won't talk about that because it's Christian McCaffrey. But yeah, so go Hawks, and hopefully both the Red Sox and the Astros lose the ALCS if that's possible. Let's hope that loses as well, because both of them are cheaters and they both suck ass.
Any Philadelphia team even remotely anything right now? No. So I don't even care. I got all the hats back here. I don't even wear them.
Yep.
Everybody have a great night. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back next week. Obviously, there's no Eagles game on Sunday, so there's no post-game shows. Did that last night. We'll be back with all the great shows on DSM Media. Make sure you're following, like I said, subscribing. 8 shows, 9 shows a week. We all have a great night. Everybody have a good, safe weekend. We'll talk to you guys next week, everybody.